Hello, my friend, and welcome to the very first episode of the Accountable Podcast. This is where we are making accountability fun because you absolutely deserve to achieve your goals and not to feel any guilt around not crossing something off of your to-do list. So today we're talking about goal setting and how I believe we were taught to do this backwards. But after today's episode, you're going to know exactly how to do this so you can be part of the 8% of people who actually achieve their goal. So let's jump in. And the first thing I want to talk about is terminology. So we use the term goal and you can use it however you'd like, but I wanted to set the stage for what we're going to be talking about on this podcast in general. So when I say something about your big goal, your big vision, your big dream, that's the thing that you've got on the horizon. That is the North Star. That is the thing that you don't necessarily know how you're going to do it yet and all the nitty-gritty details about it, but you know that's where you want to go. That's that big vision. And this is so important because oftentimes we get really trapped into what can I do in the next few months? And we're going to get there, but we have to have the big vision of where we want to go ultimately before we can get to those other things, which I like to call milestones. And these are the things where we want to get from point A, which is where we are, to point B in the simplest way possible. So the big goal is the big vision that you have that you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I want to get there. And it's really important to me that I get there because it's my goal and I'm intrinsically motivated to get there. Then you're going to take it down to milestones. And that is where you really do need to know how you're going to get from point A to point B. And I'll walk you through exactly how to do that. But those are the two different things that we'll talk about, the big goal and the milestones. So when we think about going from the big goal to the milestones, you have to be really, really honest with yourself about a few things. So I'm going to bring in a study that was done in 1982 that came up with the Bloomberg Model of Performance. And this is something that really changed the game for me as a coach because it really helped me understand how I can help people set better goals and milestones. And this model of performance says that our performance is a function of our capacity, willingness, and opportunity. So we have to understand and be very honest with ourselves about these things. You have to have the opportunity to take the action. Sometimes that opportunity is not there, but when it's there, we need to recognize it and be like super excited because we have the opportunity to go after the thing that we really want to go after. The other thing is our capacity. We need to know how to take the action. That is that skill or knowledge that fits into capacity. We have to have the time and the finances to take the action. That's also part of capacity. And we need the energy to take the action. That is part of our capacity too. So it's not just time. It also encompasses all of these other things. Time is a huge component though. And the last part is the willingness. We have to be willing to put in the effort to get to that specific goal or that specific milestone. And that willingness is our commitment. This is the thing that I think we shy away from being honest about because we want to say, yes, I'm committed. Yes, I can put in the effort. But we really have to ask ourselves and be really, really honest about that and say, am I willing? Am I really willing to do it? And one of the exercises that I love to do with my clients is for them to list out the effort they believe will be required. And then we look at that list and I say, are you willing to do these things? Are you willing to put in this energy and this effort? And if the answer is no, we celebrate that. We celebrate the fact that you don't have to be willing to do all the effort all the time. You need to look at your season of life and be honest about it. Because once you're honest, if you say yes or you say no, you can then adjust and figure out the milestone. So you have to be honest about those things. And this is when, once we're honest about what we can do, and we know the time frame we're looking at, I suggest 90 days. This is where I believe we were taught to do things backwards. So typically, how many times have you thought about your yearly goal and you're like, I'm going to do this thing in whatever year it is, right? And you get to the end of the year and you're like, oh my gosh, I did not do that thing. I didn't do it. And why didn't I do it? And you're like frustrated and then you feel guilty or shameful or embarrassed or whatever the case is. The thing is that we were taught to set the goal and then start putting pretty Post-its on a calendar. And I love pretty Post-its on a calendar. Trust me, I'm here for it. But we have to do one step before that. Is what I would suggest is that big thing that you want to do in the year or the 5-year goal or whatever it is. Then I want you to take it down to the milestone level, once you know what you have to be honest with, and calculate your capacity first. You need to understand specifically how much time you have. Because once you know your time constraint, you can figure out the rest. You can identify if you have the energy, the skills, the knowledge, the opportunity, the finances, all of those things. But time is really important because you don't want this goal to run your life. You want it to be a part of your life. And so you want to identify how much time do I actually have to dedicate to this goal. And when you can calculate your capacity first and then set the milestone, you are really setting yourself up for success. Because what we don't want is that your big goal, your big dream, to go into the drawer of doom because you wrote it on a notebook and then didn't see it for a whole year. That's not what we want. We want to flip things around, calculate your capacity first, and then move forward. So here is exactly how you can set realistic milestones to achieve your goal. Step number 1 is to identify that big thing and why it's important to you. So that big goal, the big vision, and ask yourself, why is this important to me? If you aren't intrinsically motivated, it's going to be very hard to put in the energy and the effort when things get hard. But if you are internally motivated to do this, you will push through the hard things. You've seen this in your life before, and it's all about being honest about why you want it. There's no right or wrong answer. So first, you're going to identify the big goal and why it's important to you. Then step number 2 is you're going to calculate your capacity for the next 90 days. And great news, I've got a free tool that you can use to actually see this. It takes just a few minutes and it's absolutely free. Go to amandamckinney.com/calculator and you can get access, put a few numbers in, and you'll know exactly how many hours you have, which is a very exciting tool. And so you can see how much capacity in terms of time that you actually have. Then, based on your capacity, you then identify your milestone for 90 days. So you ask yourself this, what can I realistically do and what am I willing to realistically do in the next 90 days that will get me one step closer to my big goal? So that's what you're going to do in the 90 days. Then step 4 is maybe you need to map out a more detailed plan. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. If you do, map out a plan, week by week if you can, at least month by month, and then dive into the deeper steps. And then step 5, my dear friend, is to do the dang work. You've got to do it. If you want the result, you have to do the work. If you want to run the marathon, you have to run in the rain sometimes. If you want to hold your book in your hands because you've always wanted to be a published author, you're going to have to write when you don't feel like writing. If you want to be featured on the cover of a magazine, you're going to have to hear no hundreds, maybe thousands of times before you hear the yes. So are you willing to pitch yourself and hear no that many times? If you want to see more money in your bank account, then you're going to have to pitch your business. You're going to have to talk about your business when you're not comfortable. You're going to have to be putting it out there. If you want to grow your email list, you're going to have to talk about that free resource you have hundreds of times, not just one time. Because if you want to see the result, you have to put in the effort. So that brings us to the accountable action for this episode. I want you to set your 90-day milestone based on your capacity. So you're going to follow those steps and really identify that big goal and why it's important to you. You're going to calculate your capacity. Remember, there's a free calculator for you at amandamckinney.com/calculator. And then you're going to set a 90-day milestone based on your capacity, because that is going to get you one step closer to your big goal, which is exactly what you want. And if you're looking for more customized support, you can always go to my website to see what current available offers I have. It's at amandamckinney.com/work with me. And you can even book a discovery call. These are zero pressure. I have all of my pricing on my website and never hide that from you. And on discovery calls, I don't make you make a decision unless you're just really ready to, but it is zero pressure for sure. So you can always do that. But more than anything, I want to remind you that I believe in you even in the moments that you don't believe in yourself. Keep going. You've got this. And until next time, keep being accountable.